with a new face. Wow, you must be up on all the latest Tossball games. So who do you follow? Wait, don't tell me. You look like a Hammersmith Thunder fan. No, Glacial H Mammoths. I'd heard they'd gotten a new hacker. Is that why everyone's making such a fuss about you? But what are you doing on Monarch? Ha! Maybe we're not so isolated as I thought. So, what can I do for you?
Hello and welcome to another video review, and today I'm reviewing The Outer Worlds. Specifically, I played this game on the Xbox One X. It is available on PS4 and PC as well. I will also say up front, it is a Game Pass game, so if you have an Xbox Game Pass, you can play this game right now in its entirety, and that is one of the best ways to play this game. So, The Outer Worlds is basically Obsidian's answer to Fallout. Obsidian, as you guys know, made the 2010 Fallout game at New Vegas. They made some other very, very prominent RPGs throughout the years. They're a huge RPG developer, and specifically they are now owned by Microsoft. So this kind of makes their first big release under Microsoft's umbrella, and it's fantastic, I have to say. So The Outer Worlds is your standard Fallout type game. Basically, you were cryo-frozen on a ship in space. This kind of crazy, kooky doctor comes and gets you out of that, and you just kind of go off on your adventure. If there's one thing I'd say about the writing in this game and how it resembles something, or something I can compare it to, it would be the TV show Firefly. It's really obvious that Obsidian are a huge fan of the TV show Firefly, and it just shows throughout the writing in this game. So I won't go into any real major spoilers or anything too specific on the story. One of the big aspects of this game I want to talk about, and probably my favorite part of The Outer Worlds in a nutshell here, is going to be the dialogue options. So if you've ever played a Bethesda game like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, whenever you talk to NPCs in the game, you always get different dialogue trees that can branch off, and you can level up skills and stuff that will give you different dialogue options and can change the outcome of different conversations. It's one of the big draws to a Bethesda type RPG. What Obsidian has done here is they've crafted probably the best version I've ever seen of this type of system in a video game. It is light years ahead of Skyrim, or Fallout 4, Fallout 3, or any of the Bethesda RPGs that we've kind of grown up playing here. It is incredibly deep, incredibly intuitive. One of the first things, and this is such a minor spoiler, I can't really even call it a spoiler, but one of the first things that happens in the game specifically is when you get out of the cryo pod and you're kind of down on this planet, the first time you get a gun or talk to somebody, if you've put in skills into line or perception or any one of the parts of the skill tree that give you better dialogue options, at least in my experience, you can straight up lie to the first character to get his gun. And that just shows the level of depth that these systems have in this game is unlike any Bethesda RPG that I've played before, where it seemed like the dialogue options and decisions you make in a Bethesda game slightly change the outcome. It seems like they drastically change the outcome of things in this game. Another thing that I'll say about the game that I think is really cool, and I'm actually doing this on my second playthrough of the game right now, the doctor that saves you in the game is actually wanted by the police in this game. For many different crimes. You can sell him out at any time, which drastically changes the story of the game. Now, obviously, my first playthrough, I played the game kind of as they intended, you know, by not selling that guy out and kind of doing his quest line. This second playthrough, I'm running through the game right now on the PC version of it, and I am going to sell him out the first chance I get, because I want to see how different the story plays out with him behind bars and with you kind of just doing your own thing. So basically what happens is you, through some really stupid ways, start piloting a ship, and you have different companions that you unlock, very much like a Bethesda type game. There are 6 companions you can unlock in this game. Each one of them has a really interesting and fascinating backstory. My favorite character was probably Pavarti. She is basically kind of the equivalent of the engineer from Firefly. Again, there are a ton of references to the TV show Firefly in this game. Her quest line, her main like companion quest, where you kind of have to prepare her for a date and get her around her awkwardness, is incredibly well written. It's funny, and it's one of the best like minor storylines I've seen in a video game in 2019. Each one of these characters has their own interesting backstory, and each one is fleshed out differently. They all have different skills, so you're allowed to take 2 companions into battle with you, and each one of them has a special skill that's mapped to either the left or the right button on the D-pad. And when you're in battle, you can kind of click it and they'll do their little like special move. Mostly throughout the game, I ran with either Parvati, I can't think of her name, it starts with an N. She's the chick that is drunk all the time and has the machine gun. And then Sam the robot. Sam the robot's probably my other favorite character in the game. Basically, he was a cleaning robot that was decommissioned on your ship. So when you wake him up, he becomes a companion that goes into battle with you, but because of how he is programmed, he constantly is talking about cleaning everything, and it leads to some of the best humor I've seen in a video game in 2019. Especially, you know, when you play video games, something that's really hard to capture is humor, and I think Obsidian have really captured that in this game. Companions are really cool. I didn't care for all of them. Felix was the only character in the game I didn't really care for. He's kind of a Han Solo-ish drifter. The only thing I really did with him in the game is do his companion quest, which is okay, but I felt it was weaker than some of the other characters in the game. But all the characters, all the companions are very, very well written. Also the storyline itself, it's funny, it's humorous, there's a bunch of awesome different side quests in this game. And another thing I have to talk about is the visuals of this game. This game looks gorgeous. I'm actually disappointed that this game doesn't have HDR, because of how bright and colorful some of the worlds that you go to are. Now, one big criticism I have about the game is its inventory system. The text, which they are fixing throughout a patch sometime soon here, the text is really, really small. So if you play on a 60-inch TV like I do, or anything bigger, that text is really small. It kind of harkens back to the original Dead Rising if you played on a standard def TV where you couldn't read the text at all. You had to go play on a high def TV. It's the same kind of thing here. The text is really small and hard to read at times. I'm sure users that are playing this game on computer, being that you're sitting closer to a smaller screen and scope, will have an easier time reading the text. But that was something I had a problem with, and I mean, hell, I wear glasses when I play video games, and I still had a hard time reading some of the dialogue in this game. Another big complaint I have about the game, and this is a pet peeve I have in any video game, but here I find it egregious, and that is repairing broken equipment. I feel like in this game, at least through my initial playthrough, and you probably can change this depending on how you spec out your character, is repairing equipment. I feel like my guns broke all the time, and I was constantly visiting workbenches to fix them, and it just started to really drag on me. It's a concept I already don't like in a video game, and I feel like here it was just incredibly egregious, and it just kept happening more and more. That's probably my biggest problem with the Outer Worlds. Again, it's something you can probably fix depending on how you spec out your character. I specifically spec'd out my character for dialogue first, because that's what interests me in these types of games. But I'm sure you can spec out your character to be a lot more repair happy, and it'll work out better for you in the end. My only other complaint here is not really a complaint, it's just more of a word of caution for you if you haven't played this game. If you're going into this game and you're expecting this big 60-hour open world RPG, The Outer Worlds is not that. It's a game that was developed on a pretty small scope and a pretty modest budget. It almost feels more like a proof of concept game, where I feel like now that this game has been the massive success that it has been, you are going to see a Outer Worlds 2 that's massive and big in scope, and Microsoft's going to throw money at Obsidian to make a sequel for this game. However, when I look at everything in this game, it is very small in its scope. It took me about 25 to 30 hours to beat my first playthrough, and I leveled all the way up to the max level, which is 30. So if that's anything to tell you, you level up pretty quickly. Another thing I'll say is, like, initially when you start playing the game, I played through the game on normal. It seems a little bit difficult at first, but then you kind of get over that hump. In the game, I feel like on normal is too easy. So I started my PC run of the game on hard. It definitely feels a lot more challenging. So if you're looking to play this game but have somewhat of a challenge, I would highly recommend playing it on hard at least. I mean, other than that, little minor things I'll say. The Xbox One X version of this game is the only version that is enhanced. For whatever reason, they didn't do any enhancements for the PS4 Pro for this game. So if you're looking for a higher def version of this game, something that has a more crisper picture, definitely go with the Xbox One X, unless you have a PC that's going to run this stuff at 4K. Other than that, I started playing the game on PC. I will say, you know, with my 144 hertz monitor, running this game at that kind of a refresh rate is definitely jarring after coming off of a locked 30 frames. One of the other big things I have to highlight in my review here is how good this game runs. You know, I'm used to a specific level of jank and brokenness with a Bethesda RPG, Fallout, Skyrim. You know, it took years to get them to fix those games, or through user patches to get those games to not have any bugs. And throughout my 30 hours with the Outer Worlds, I saw maybe 2 little instances of bugs in the game. One of them was a character morphing into a wall, and another one was a weird hitching glitch where just simply resetting my game removed the glitch entirely. Otherwise, this is a Bethesda-type RPG that's built on Unreal Engine 4. And it just shows that the creation engine that Bethesda uses is so incredibly outdated, they need to throw it out and maybe even just go over to Unreal 4. Maybe that would make, you know, the next Elder Scrolls game run that much better. So, and I'm not going to sit here and shit on those games. You know, I love and adore the Bethesda RPGs, especially Skyrim, Oblivion, and Fallout 3 and 4. But it just goes to show, here's a developer who also has a history with these types of games that just outdid what this company, you know, what Bethesda is known for. So to have a other company come and make that type of game, even if it is on a little bit smaller of a scope, really just shows. So for one last thing I will say here, my final grade for the game is going to be an A-. I definitely think you should play it. And I'll tell you right now, this is not an ad for Game Pass. This is just me talking to you. If you want to play this game and you have an Xbox or you have a PC, the easiest way for you to do this is just get Game Pass for a month. For $10, you can play the entirety of this game under a month, within a month's time frame, and cancel that subscription. Or you can go out, you can support them and pay for the game, you know, a full $60. I think the Outer Worlds is definitely worth $60. With that being said, the last thing I want to say here about the Outer Worlds is, you know, in 2019 we've had some real downs in video games, and we're kind of at the end of the year now where, yes, some big titles are coming out and stuff, but there's also not a lot in comparison to other years because, you know, Microsoft and Sony, they're getting ready to launch new consoles next fall, so we're kind of at the tail end of this generation. And one thing I'll say about the Outer Worlds that's been a huge breath of fresh air is this is a full price $60 product that has no monetization. It has no microtransactions of any kind in it. This is a complete game. You pay your price and you play it to your heart's content. And that is really refreshing in 2019, especially when some of this year's biggest games have been ruined by greedy monetization. With that being said, the Outer Worlds is definitely worth your time. It comes highly recommended. It's one of the best games I've played in 2019. It will definitely be on my top 10 list at the end of the year. I cannot recommend it enough. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video review. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.